Can you imagine what would happen if every top leader in business became a tither? There would be literally billions available for good work around the world.
Hey, what's up, Bright Business Podcast viewers? This is Josh, and I'm excited. This is actually our very first podcast recording, and we have owner Jeremiah of OnSong. We are both based here in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, which is pretty cool.
Very cool.
And we've been able to do a lot of work with each other over the years.
Absolutely.
We've gone to a lot of conferences, done a lot of just marketing strategies together. But I wanted to bring him on because Jeremiah has such a wealth of knowledge and just his background with not only ministry, but business. And you do such a good job of bringing your faith into everything you do. And that's really what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
Our goal here is to inspire those who are in business, who are in ministry, and how to increase their faith in everything they're doing. So, Jeremiah, give a little background on you and your journey with OnSong, and maybe some people don't know what OnSong is. Maybe
sure. Well, first, thanks for having me on the inaugural podcast. This is cool.
Yes.
So I was a worship pastor and youth pastor for 20 years. So I had the ministry side of it locally as well. So I went to Messiah College and then got a degree in ministry, Christian ministries with a minor in youth. And honestly, being a business owner was the farthest thing from my mind. You know, I was a worship leader and a pastor for 20 years, and God has His way of doing His shifting and His changing around. And while I was a pastor, I used the app, which is the company that we're part of. It's called OnSong, and I used the app on the road when I was leading worship at these conferences with Todd White and with Dan Moeller and these guys with Power and Love. Did that for about 10 years, and then so I would use the app on the road, and I would pretty much bring my guitar player, my drummer with me, and then we would have to work with a house band. And so on the house band, we used a paper in the beginning, which was insane. And these big chunks of sheet music that we put in, on my bags, flying and stuff like that. It was a pain in the butt. But then OnSong came out, the app, and it basically takes all your paper charts, puts it into an app, and that I can have a digital songbook right there for me, and my library grew. But I could come into the church wherever I was at, leading worship, and give these guys 3 iPads, and they would have the whole set that I was going to do for the next 3 or 4 days, all the chords, all the lyrics, all the keys that I was going to do them in. Everything was a one-stop shop right there for the musicians. And so that's kind of how I ended up. I used OnSong on the road first, sort of became an ambassador for them per se on the road, just volunteering and just giving, just exposing people to the great app of OnSong. Well, then 2017, I was done pastoring locally here. And then 2018 in February, they asked if I'd come and work at OnSong, and really kind of just saw the need. And Jason and Jamie have just been amazing to work with and to be with there. And we kind of just, they wanted OnSong to become more than a mom and pop company. And so I was able to use some of the wisdom or expertise that I have to some degree with decision making and different things like that. And we've been able to grow the company from 2 and 3 people to now we're 6 full-time, 1 part-time, and have office space. And we just came, like I just said, we had the best quarter we've ever had in the company this Q1 of 2024. So awesome. God has been unbelievable. Awesome. Thank you. It's been unbelievable. But being a CEO and president of a company was definitely the last thing on my totem pole of things that I thought I'd be doing in life. Yeah. But God's got a sense of humor. God's got our life in the palm of His hand. And so our thing and my thing is just to be obedient. And
Absolutely.
If I can be obedient, then good things happen.
Absolutely. So. It's so interesting. Because you and I have a lot of similarities with our story. In fact, talking about OnSong, I was a user of OnSong when I was in California before even I made my way here to the East Coast in Pennsylvania.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I had downloaded OnSong probably on my first ever iPad, which must have been like generation 2 or 3.
Yep.
And I was using it in ministry.
Wow.
And so you might not know, I was a worship pastor as well.
Yeah.
Went to Bible college and was using OnSong for a while. And when I finally made my way to Pennsylvania here, I learned that you guys were here in Mechanicsburg.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
I've been using OnSong for 10 years already. Been a paying customer.
Thank you.
Well, back then it was a one-time fee, but now you guys have awesome,
Yeah.
A great subscription model, which I'm sure you'll get into later.
Sure.
But it's just so cool to see a product that actually served a need. Because like
Absolutely.
you, I traveled, I did ministry on the road a lot.
Yeah.
And to bring, in fact, before OnSong, I used to bring binders
Yep.
with
Absolutely.
a bunch of tabs with charts.
Alphabetical.
In there. Yeah, and then, you're running copies if you got a new bass player coming in. And, your product just solved that need. And
That's great.
It's just incredible because even for myself, I didn't envision myself being an owner of a company either.
Yeah.
I went to Bible college to be a worship leader,
Yep.
worship pastor. I just thought
Wow.
I'd be in full-time ministry pretty much my entire life.
Yep.
But like you said, God has different paths for us,
Yep.
and his ways are higher than our ways.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either. I mean, it's been a great 7 years already at OnSong, and
Yeah.
it's just been tremendous, and the growth that I've seen just in doing things that I've never done before is challenging, and I would encourage others to be challenged every day.
Right.
So if things are easy and you have a way of doing things and it works all the time, that might be fine in some circumstances and situations. But if you're not being challenged, if you're not being, if something isn't hard to do, then it's probably not worth doing.
That's good.
You know what I mean? So,
good.
so I've been working on stuff that has absolutely stretched me to probably the end of what I could probably be stretched in as far as just understanding things when you're a pastor, you do things that are very pastoral. You shepherd people, you are around groups and that kind of thing. But, during COVID, we're applying for a PPP1 and PPP2 loans.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing? I'm
Right.
like 2 years out of being a pastor from 20 years. All of a sudden, I'm working with banks trying to get a loan to keep the business afloat. So you learn on the fly, but you also, the payout and the payoff, when you come through the other end and God worked that out, or broke through and he gave you the breakthrough, he worked that miracle out, is so fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's so good. So if I've always said, if it isn't hard, or there are elements of it that are hard, is it actually worth doing?
Yeah. And it really challenges a different side of your faith.
Yes.
And what I've learned too, being a person of faith already, and you're leading worship and you're in ministry,
Yep.
and then you step into the business field, and now you have these new challenges that you've never faced before, and you still have your faith, but how do you insert your faith into those situations? What was it like for you, and how did you approach those challenges you just mentioned?
I think incorporating the faith in it. One, obviously, the founder of OnSong was a Christian. We went to Messiah together, him and his wife.
Right.
So the faith element was already there in
Right.
why he created OnSong in the first place. I mean, I'm not a developer. I don't know anything about coding. I do obviously the business side of things, but and the relational side. But the faith part for me, doing something I've never done before, I remember when I started at OnSong, I would go to the McDonald's to work on support cases just so that I could learn everything about the app before the offices opened up at their home, just so I could learn what I needed to learn long term. And so by going through some of that stuff early on and understanding the business from the ground up, I felt like I learned really quickly that it wasn't so much about owning the company or being a part of ownership. It was, what is God asking me to steward?
That's good.
What is God asking me to steward here? Am I stewarding the finances of OnSong? Am I stewarding the people of OnSong? Am I stewarding the concept of OnSong? What am I stewarding here? Because everything that I know through pastoring is that you're given something by God to steward, and you want to steward it well.
Right.
So if I look at it from that perspective, then it's not mine in the first place. God owns everything. God owns it all.
Yeah.
So I'm not owning anything per se. I'm looking at it from the vantage point of, this is how I want to steward this. This is how I want to make it the best possible blessing, best possible company, best possible relational, best possible group dynamic with the employees. Everything is in my mind is how I incorporate the faith would be through how do I steward this versus how do I just arbitrarily insert my faith.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if I do it from that perspective, it seems like it's been working. It seems like it's been a good thing.
Yeah.
But again, and that's why that book that you have back there, and I actually brought in today. I just started reading it. Just got it 2 days ago. It's been so affirming because sometimes we read books because we want to learn, and I'm going to learn through reading that book. But sometimes we read things or we hear things or we ask God. They're actually confirmations of what you're already doing, that God has already given you, that he's just giving you that little pat on the back saying, Josh, you are doing it. Right. Keep going. Right. You are in right step with what I have for your life and what I have for the business or what I have for the employees or whatever. He's just giving us a pat on the back saying, keep going. I'm cheering you on. You're on the right path. And for me, that's a lot of the time what I need more than anything when you're doing something that can be big, like owning a company or all these employees. Like, you want to know that the process and the plans that you're going through are working. Absolutely. And they're actually taking hold. Absolutely. And I mean, I think you and I and others, you're going to sit around and think, man, was that a good choice? Was that a good decision? And you think about that and you wonder about, was that a good decision multiple times throughout the day? Absolutely. And if the Lord has given you a nice pat on the back and saying, man, this is confirmation that that you're on the right path, Josh, for this or for that, that is gold to me. That is gold. That's the faith piece for me that I look for those winks from the Lord or those pats on the back that I know, whatever that was, I'm on the right path. I love that.
Being a business owner in itself is really hard, and it's a lot of pressure. And honestly, I think this to myself. I don't know how I would do this without having faith. Yeah. Without having God on your corner, just carrying the weight, carrying the burden. And really, that's what that book did for me. Leadership, not by the book. Yeah. And in fact, we'll have a link here below. So
that's crazy.
Some of you can click on that link. Yeah, you didn't know that. I had
no idea. I literally just got this 2 days ago from Amazon in the mail.
Yeah, and then we have it on the shelf.
I have it on the shelf. I'm like, well, this is a God thing. But see, that's what I just talked about. Yeah, that's confirmation. Right. That's confirmation that I'm supposed to be reading this book right now. Absolutely. I walk in here, it's on the shelf. I'm like, are you serious? I've never done a podcast before in my life. And here I am with the book that I got 2 days ago, and it's confirmation of what's happening here with Josh as the business owners at the Bright Business. I mean, it's all God's connections. Right. And then then the beauty of that is you are walking down the path the right way that God has ordained for this moment. Absolutely. So, and what I love about that process is once you take that mindset that, hey, this is not mine. Yeah. I don't own any of it. Exactly. And that's really what that book confirms. Absolutely. Yep. It releases such a pressure off your shoulders. Absolutely. When you're running a business, because what the pressure's not on me. Yeah. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, if I'm stewarding what's in front of me, it's really up to him. Yeah. It's really up to God. Absolutely. And it releases so much. I can sleep better at night. Absolutely. I'm not questioning my decisions, and God allows us to go through certain things that may feel like it was a bad decision, but he allows us to go through that so we can learn and we can grow from it. Absolutely. And in the moment, it may not feel like it's a good decision when you just made it. Yep. You look back a year later, it's like, man, I'm glad I went through that. Absolutely. I grew so much from that. 100%. Yeah. 100%. That's incredible. So what challenges do you face on a daily basis? I mean, obviously being in business, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with customers, but you were, before we were going live here, you're telling me about how you serve two different markets. You have a church market, but you also have a secular market as well. How do you utilize faith as an outreach? Well, that's a good question because, half of our users, which we don't know if it's half, but there's a good chunk that is secular, clubs, pubs, anywhere there's musicians, cruise ships, music therapists, any times there's, a lot of the pubs in England, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that going on. People are using OnSong there and they're playing their top 40 and they're doing, we have a huge contingency of people that use OnSong in the ukulele Hawaiian culture. We have a ukulele built into OnSong that they have different charts. We have thousands of ukulele Hawaiian native ethnic people using it on the island, and which we've been really need to go visit some of them, I think.
Yeah, I think you should go do just a market test
Or
out
find
there.
a conference out there or something to play a little ukulele.
Yeah,
Share my faith in Hawaii.
There you go.
It's
Suffer for Jesus, right?
so there's always that balance, but I guess I would probably say that we don't shy away from saying what the purpose of OnSong was from the beginning. And the purpose of OnSong in the beginning was to help worship leaders all over the world be able to, one, obviously get rid of paper, two, be more effective in how they lead worship, and three, be able to spend more time with the Lord to be able to work on the set list or work on spending time with the Lord instead of all the technical side of things as far as the set list and transposing a chord or doing this or doing that. The technical side, we really wanted to make it a tool, and that's the part that I got hooked on. OnSong as a user, not as a business person, as a user, it literally revolutionized how I led worship. It revolutionized it, and so that's why when we have to toe the line a little bit when we do trainings. We'll go out and do trainings. It's open to anybody. I mean, it could be a worship leader, it could be a top 40 guy, whatever. We never shy back on saying the origin of OnSong and the purpose behind it. And you should never have to apologize for how God gave Jason a dream, and he created the app OnSong, and it was because of the Lord.
Right.
So that's the story of OnSong. So we will always stay true to that story. Do we have to keep into account users that don't know the Lord? Absolutely. And we want to reach them as well.
Right.
And so we find ways to not only go to Christian conferences when we set up for OnSong. You know, we want to find those other conferences out there that are the guy playing top 40. You know, I mean, the guy or gal playing in their local band that they use OnSong, or we go to Nashville. You know, I mean, you see all the people down there using it down at Honky Tonk and all that stuff. So as far as us being able to incorporate it, it comes through the testimony. It comes through the testimony. Man, this guy doesn't know the Lord, but he's using OnSong, and he's asking us, how did that come about? So then we're able to say, you know what? This guy, Jason, man, was sitting there with his worship team, and the iPad was just coming out, and the worship leader said to him, all this paper was laid out, like, man, we could really use an app for this, and all this paper, and put it in the app. And Jason was like, I think I can, or the worship leader says, I don't think you can do that, Jason, and kind of challenged him. And Jason was like, oh, I'm going to show you. And so he goes home and starts coding that night. And that's how OnSong was created, was from a worship leader challenging him and saying, you can't do that, Jason. You know what I mean? This is before there was any apps.
Right.
I mean, we're one of the only 500 apps that are still in the App Store from 2010 or 11 when the iPad came out.
Wow.
So we're super thankful and grateful for that. But this company has been able to be in both markets and to thrive in both markets, but also continue the testimony, continue the faith, and continue to be able to sow back into our community and continue to be able to be a blessing. So
absolutely,
there are ways that we do that, but we don't want to just be a Christian company. You know, we don't want to just go to all the worship conferences and show up and show people about OnSong and reach all of them. We do, but we also, we want OnSong to be a blessing that could very well lead them to Christ through music or through whatever it may be once they hear the origin of OnSong.
I love that. Yeah, because you are who you are.
Yep. Regardless
of where you go.
Absolutely.
You're wearing a NAMM hat, so I know you go to NAMM
absolutely.
every year.
That's 100% secular for the most part. For the most part.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But it's not like you're going to put your Christian hat on when you go to Christian worship conference and you go to NAMM, you put your secular hat on, you know.
Yeah,
you are who you are, and I think your story stands for itself.
Absolutely. We just want to be authentic. We want to be authentic with people. And I said this about OnSong and church. People come to church, why? They don't come necessarily because of the worship or the word or this or that. That does help. But if a new person is going to come to church, they're going to come on an arm of a trusted friend. Same thing with OnSong. If OnSong is going to be used by someone else, it's going to be used because of an arm of a trusted musician that showed them it.
Yeah.
and said, hey, I need you to play bass tonight. Here's OnSong. Use OnSong. Do you like it? Then see if you can go get it. So it's very similar. And so I don't think that that's a coincidence. I don't think that that's just by happenstance. I think that things grow because of arms of trusted friends and community and people that link together and say, wow, I know Josh really well. And if he's going to recommend this, I better check it out because I trust him.
Yeah.
You know, I trust him. I trust what God's doing in his life. And he wants to show me this. I should pay attention.
Absolutely.
So that's a good thing.
Trust goes a long way, huh?
Yeah, it's better than a 4-star rating.
Absolutely. Well, 4.5-star now. This is standard now.
Yeah, true.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, we've been doing a lot of work together over the years.
Yeah.
And we've even shared booths.
Absolutely.
Before at different conferences
Booths,
and shows.
not booths.
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 Booths. Edit that out. Yeah.
Funny.
Speaking of being authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people want. They want authenticity.
For sure.
And in a world of so much bombardment with marketing and just videos everywhere, billboards and ads, people are fighting for our attention.
Yep.
And they're putting out clickbait, and we talked about what that is earlier, and just so much noise. How do you maintain authenticity, and how do you when you're marketing worldwide? I mean, you talked about
we are
clients overseas.
Yep.
How do you connect with them?
Well, I'm not 100% knowing all of how it works in the social media world by any means, of what reaches what and who reaches who, and does this Facebook ad, does this reach here? We do throw some nets out there, and we try to go as global as we could possibly be globally, as well as obviously within within the English speaking culture. Now we do have translations. We are in multiple countries all over the world. Because they have an app store. If that country has an app store, then we're in that country.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it sort of works in Apple world. But with that being said, we actually just marketed to Switzerland, and we rolled the dice because we didn't know what was happening there. We actually tried to get 2 or 3 local firms or how do we call them, social media firms in Switzerland to sort of help us work on ads, work on different things, and we looked at our sales. We looked at how many sales come in from Switzerland from the App Store, how many sales come through on the Stripe side, the group subscription for churches like that, and then how much taxes we got to pay on. So that's the other issue is the taxes side of it when they're buying OnSong outside the App Store. So with that being said, we felt like we wanted to figure out a way to, when I talk about doing something hard, we had to try and figure out a way, crack the pavement to see how we could do this. And so we ended up having 2 calls with 2 Switzerland companies, or two interactions, and it was actually way too much money to invest on that side of it. So what we ended up doing is Dakota, the marketing, the communications guy at OnSong, we targeted the Facebook ads a little bit differently, and so the Facebook ads ended up giving us a little bit of a bump. Okay, but like we didn't really go with the $3,500 per company. So invest $7,000 to try to get some elevated hits and get some group subscription stuff like that. It just at the time it just seemed too big of a risk.
Right.
And so, but then on the other side, we did we had a cross promotion with Boss, the pedal Boss, and all of a sudden they've been up and down to work with. I mean, sometimes they answer their emails, sometimes they don't. But when they did, and they reached out to us and said, hey, we want to cross promote. We want OnSong, and you guys use the pedal and OnSong with the Bluetooth and all that stuff. All of a sudden that week we had 15,000 hits off of something we didn't even pay for.
Really? So
you go over here and we could have spent $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 in Switzerland and maybe got 500 hits, 350 hits in a country that we're trying to crack open. But then God worked out this thing with Boss, and we had 15,000 hits in like 3 or 4 days. And I literally had to go back and look and say, where's this spike coming from? And then we tracked it back to their 4 or 5 links that they put on in their in their social media world, and it was just a huge success.
And was that planned out? Did you guys say?
We planned out the cross promotion,
Okay.
but it's an affiliate, so we planned that out with a lot of companies. You know what I mean, like AirTurn, Pedal, obviously Boss, or Coda, different pedals like that, and some of them do well, but not like that. That was an astronomical spike, at least for us. Now in Coda world, they might have a 350K, and that's, I'm sorry, in Boss world, 350K for them might be standard. But hey, we're still a small company. I mean, 15K for eyeballs for OnSong, hey, that's a good day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we didn't pay a dime. You know what I mean? So like, but those are the things where you ask God to breathe on.
Yeah.
Breathe on those things, make those things come to life. Help us be good stewards of the marketing budget. Help us be good stewards of the whole income. Help us be stewards in every single nook and cranny of what's going on in the business. And if that's the approach, then those blessing moments, I believe, happen. They might feel like a surprise at the moment because they were a surprise. But when you look back in the forest, you're like, oh, that was God.
Yeah.
He knew that he answered the prayer. He answered what we were saying. He answered what we prayed 6 months ago at the staff meeting.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's maybe that's a roundabout way of answering your question. But
Well, I love it though, because if you look at both examples, we can sit around a table and we can set a marketing budget, and we can call Switzerland, and we can create campaigns and do the logical steps to get the clients, or go the other route, which is unconventional. You know, and it's creative, and God opened up that door.
Absolutely.
And you paid zero, but you got 15,000 eyeballs on your company.
And that's the, I don't want to say synergy, but that's sort of the secret sauce, or the way that sometimes this thing works in the social media world, in my opinion. I mean, I think there's a lot of money that's thrown to the wall, hoping that it sticks in marketing land. And I think there's a lot of stuff that is thrown at the wall, and it does stick, and it ends up blowing up and being amazing. So I don't have, like I said, I'm no expert in it. I don't have a grid on it. Again, kids nowadays go to school to learn social media. Kids nowadays have a whole track for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I went to Messiah College. You know what I mean? That's the first time I had an email address. You know what I mean? Like that's where I got JG1189 at messiah.edu.
Right.
I'm like, what is that? You know, on a blue screen, it looks like Pong going back and forth trying to answer email. So here we've come so far, and I graduated in 99. We've come so far in 25 years. 25 years. So I'm not going to ever think that I'm going to be an expert at something that these kids nowadays, and these kids in college now, are absolutely learning to the hill, and they're immersing themselves in it, and they're being very good at it and knowledgeable. But I'm not going to not pray, God, do your thing, blow something up that you want to blow up, and I'm going to ask you to do the impossible and things that we don't even know about. Like, keep surprising us.
Yeah, and sometimes we think that we should only pray over the big decisions. And that's those little decisions, like when you had talked about you were weighing out the cost and the risk factor of spending that much money on a marketing campaign. That's a pretty big decision for a small company.
For sure.
And even something as small as, sending out a quote to somebody. I can't tell you how many times I've created a proposal, and before I hit the send button, God bless us. If this is your will, let it be done. And you just never know. Like, the favor that we have seen in our business that we cannot explain. I could only say God has blessed it. We prayed over it, and God's favor has gone with it. And I think that's what we're seeing with your end too.
Well, you've been doing fantastic. I mean, I've seen you guys from the Ross Moyne building to now here, and just over the years of being at trade shows or at general council, different places with you guys, you just step by step, precept by precept, it's been growing and building, and it's just been amazing to see. I mean, every time we get together, there's new employees. We're learning new names at the dinner table. You know what I mean? That's great. I mean, I love the growth factor of what Refresh does. It's obviously a little different world with being hardware versus software company and selling actual hardware and products. But I really hope that obviously this podcast, but this whole business ownership and business world with the guys that are running it grows in our area. But then if we can do this in other cities to help other business owners, Christian and non-Christian, I'm all for it. I mean, because I think that there's a huge need for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a huge need for just being able to share, here's where I'm at, here's where I'm struggling, here's where I think we're doing okay. What do you guys think on it? There's just not a lot of camaraderie and authenticness, as far as being authentic around the table with other people that are in your same vein, but obviously you don't work with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Different companies, but
Absolutely.
because I just think nowadays things that worked 20 years ago and 10 years ago just are not working anymore. They're just not working. You got to figure out, you got to throw your net on the other side of the boat and figure out a way that way, but it's doable. Everybody says if you're faithful in the little, he'll bring you the big, and that's true. But man, to me, if you're a good steward of the little, if you're a good steward of every little thing in the business, whatever it may be, then he is going to bless the business. And the thing about blessing the business is that you're blessing the families of the employees that you have as well. Like you're creating a culture, you're creating a safe place and a safe work environment that all the thousands and tens of thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of people over the world long for. They long to work at a place where they're cared for, where they're loved, where they know that they can walk into my office, your office, whoever's office, and say, man, I'm struggling with this, and know that it's not going to be, top down, chop. Why don't you get your quota done?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Now, there's an element that we all have to work together and get things done. Don't get me wrong. There's deadlines and you got to keep things moving, but it brings out the best in others when you know that you're investing into the family's lives, because you want that person to have a good income so that they stick with you, that they work hard for you, and that they are rewarded as well. And so that's, to me, that's the culture we try to create at OnSong as well, with wanting to treat our people well. So.
And you do a great job. You have some great people on your team.
Cool.
And that's why we try to link up with you guys so much at different conferences, because you guys just have a great culture at your company. And anytime we can go to Brazilian steakhouse and
Fogo de chao.
cut up some steak with you guys.
That's right.
It's always a good time. And I love that you mentioned culture too.
Yeah.
Because culture is a way that we minister to our people as well.
Absolutely.
Our culture is surrounded around our mission, and our mission is to refresh others and build the kingdom. And so if our team is not refreshed, if they're not feeling like they're taken care of, and if we're not ministering to them, how can they take care of our clients?
Absolutely.
If they're not feeling refreshed, or not feeling taken care of and fueled. And how do you, again, you mentioned culture on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. What does that look like in your company?
Well, one of the things that we implemented was Tuesday mornings. We're in the office Monday through Thursday, and I let everybody work from home Fridays. So kind of just, and as crazy as it sounds, this was just something that I thought of. I thought it was not a rule, but it's something that I try to have them understand the importance of. But like, I just remember working at the church, and like every once in a while you had a dentist appointment, you had a car appointment, you had to go get your oil change, you had all these things that most of the times you couldn't get done on the weekend. You know what I mean? Like they just weren't open, or you just weren't doing, or you had family things going on. And I feel like if I always tell our employees, if you can do those appointment kind of things on like a Friday, and like push them all to then, like, not that your whole day is full of appointments and getting your car, aligned and different things like that. I would rather try to protect the 4 days we're in the office and try and be as attentive and as full of culture and working together and being together as much as possible. And then Fridays, you gotta drop your car off at 8 o'clock, to go to get it inspected and go back at 11. Great. Like, I want them to have flexibility on Fridays to be able to get a couple things done that they might need to get done, or try not to schedule your doctor's appointment at 10 o'clock an hour after staff meeting. You know what I mean? Like things like that. Now it might seem like a little thing, but they're doing it. We try to do that as much as possible. Now, sure, some doctors' offices aren't open Fridays, so it happens. But for the most part, I was like, let's work from home Fridays. And let's make it where it's a work day. Don't get me wrong, it's a work day. Right. But if you have an appointment that you have to go get done, or your kids, got a dentist appointment, then let's try to do that as the first line of defense.
Right.
So that sort of has helped and has worked and has really helped the culture Monday through Thursday, being able to get things done and not a lot of interruptions. Second of all, we take everybody out to lunch Mondays and Thursdays. So I'll buy everybody lunch Monday because I want to start my week with them, and I want to see how they're doing. I want to see how the weekend was. We all want to just talk and build community and build camaraderie and build and continue to foster our team of culture.
Yeah.
And so, we start the week together, and then Thursday at lunchtime, we'll take them out, and I want to end the week with them. How'd the week go? You know what I mean? We get this done, and sometimes we talk shop while we're out to lunch, and that's fine. But it's more like, hey, what are you going to do this weekend? You know what I mean? Like, being a software, and this is what I've struggled with the most, trying to make the transfer from being a pastor of 20 years to working for a software company, is I do not do well with isolation. So I don't do well with just sitting down, putting my heads down and working on stuff for 8 hours in a row, being in front of a computer and all that kind of stuff. Now, the nature of obviously OnSong and coding and developing and quality assurance and support cases is that. So it was a tough change for me. It was a tough change to figure it out. And I feel like if you can create those windows, you can create those small moments of 30 minutes or 45 minutes throughout the course of the 4 days, then that goes a long way to helping eliminate the isolation and feeling like you're just glued to a screen.
Right.
And so nobody likes that. Nobody wakes up and says, I can't wait to sit in front of a computer screen for eight hours a day. But some people have to. That's the world we live in. We're computer driven. So we have to find ways to come up for air. You know what I mean? And make sure that people are just not. Now, Jason, he loves getting dug in. You know what I mean? He loves keeping his heads down and developing. That's a gift. He is a huge gift. Jason has a tremendous gift. Coding and just being an awesome developer, that's his niche. I have to be around people a little bit more. I mean, especially when you're a pastor, you're around people all the time. You know what I mean? Services or working on this and in the office with a staff of 15 people. That's just what I came from. And so it was an adjustment. But we're trying to, with the culture, Mondays and Thursdays, get lunch together, try to do some of your other little odds and ends things on Fridays, work from home. And also on Tuesdays when we do staff meeting, I go around the room and I just ask everybody what would they like me to pray for them. So we do staff prayer on Tuesdays. Awesome. And people at first was pretty like, you can pray for this, pray for that. And then at times it gets to be a little serious. Like people say, hey, I'm struggling with this or I'm struggling with that. And sometimes our prayer time's 10 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes it's 15 minutes. You know what I mean? It depends. But we really try to provide that aspect at OnSong. And the other thing that I think has been helpful is I give everybody 5 days a year of community service. And to me, community service can be anything. For us, it's like we travel and lead worship. So if I'm going to go lead worship at City Quake or at Power and Love or something like that, we might work a half a day and then we'll do worship morning and night. All right. Well, I have others that they just want to volunteer at the local Mechanicsburg Swim Club. And they want to go volunteer and be so everybody has the option to help pour back into the community or to do missions or to do ministry or to pour back into Mechanicsburg or Camp Hill or Cedar Cliff or the Camp Hill area because they could do the what's the thing in Messiah out there? They always Special Olympics, things like that. So they can choose whatever they want to do if it lines up. We give everybody a week a year to go do what they want to do to give back.
Is that paid time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. So they can pick 5 days out of the 12 months. It doesn't roll over. Okay. But like if you're going away for a week and you want to go volunteer, then yeah, we want you to give back. We want you to give back to the community, which is that helps with culture. Right. It all helps with culture.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're establishing a team that understands what your core values are.
Absolutely.
As a company, because now they're given the opportunity to live it out themselves.
Absolutely.
And go contribute to the community and be involved in the prayer moments that you have. And those are some tangible things that people who are listening can even apply to their business.
Yeah, it
doesn't have to be a big format service, like I know some companies do like chapel services.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe like once a month, And I know like Hobby Lobby, the guy,
Okay.
the book that you're reading here,
Yeah.
they have a chapel service. But what you just mentioned are easy things that any Christian business owner can implement.
Absolutely.
You know, and
Absolutely.
even for us, like not all of our employees are Christian.
Right.
And we still like we have every morning at 8:30 we do a quick like a 5 to 10 minute devotion.
Good.
Just speaking
Absolutely.
About the word, and we just do a verse of the day. We talk about it. We end with a prayer. We have a number of guys on our team that aren't Christians,
Sure.
but they appreciate that time.
Absolutely.
And if you're afraid of introducing that into your business, I'd encourage you to take those steps, because you'll be surprised that those who are not Christian will actually enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And they get refreshed from it. And it just breathes life. You mentioned that term earlier. That breathes life into those individuals.
Absolutely. I mean, and who wouldn't want prayer for something that's going on in their life that they really would want to see turn around if they don't know the Lord?
Yeah.
I would. If I didn't know, and someone was offering, hey, let me pray for your son because he's going through this at school. Oh my gosh, that would be great. And if I didn't know the Lord, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that would be great. You know what I mean? So it's a testimony.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like who's like, now sure, there's people out there that'll be like, I don't want any parts of that. Fine. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, the prayer things is we do it every Tuesday. The lunch thing, I want to connect with everybody Mondays and Thursdays. And the other thing, which is probably the biggest thing that we do, is that I implemented when you talk about faith and you talk about leadership and incorporating your faith in that, is tithing. And so when I started at OnSong and became like officially the CEO and president of OnSong, I just had a conviction in my heart that we were supposed to tithe 10% back to the community on everything we make every quarter. And so I know that ends up being a big chunk of money, but it's actually been tremendous. I mean, we've sown, I don't even want to get into the numbers, but we've sown a lot of money back into our community. And I feel that is a non-negotiable. And because God loves a cheerful giver, but he also loves a cheerful company. You know what I mean? He loves it when companies give back. And I'm not doing it for charitable contribution tick on the QuickBooks thing. I'm not doing it for a kickback. I'm not doing it for tax purposes, because sometimes we give the places that there's zero tax credit back. That would be foolish to do that. We see a need and we hear about a need. We want to meet it. There's nothing attached to it. We just want to meet that need. And so we're not doing it for credit. We're not doing it for taxes. We're not doing it as a write-off. We're not doing it for that whatsoever. 100% that's not the case. Sure, no, if there's some benefit from it for the company to some degree, you're fine. But what we choose and what we pick has no bearing on if we're going to get a tax write-off or a kickback or for that. Not whatsoever, because that's not how you give.
Right.
You don't give selectively. You give when you see the need, you meet it. And so that's what Acts 2 is, the fellowship of the believers. You know what I mean? The community of believers, man. If you needed something, then you went. If your brother needed something, then you went and you helped your brother obtain that. Or if he is in need, then you help him with whatever that need is. If it's a meal that they need, you find the meal. You give them the meal. That's the fellowship in the community of believers is being there for everyone in Acts 2. And so I've really been convicted on that for the longest time, and that's why we implemented that. And so,
That's so cool.
And everybody, we have, you ever Slack? We use Slack, you know what I mean? So we have a Slack channel called Tithe.
Okay.
And so when any of the employees come across something that they want to give to, they submit that link, or they say, hey, you know what? We just had, Jordan on our team, we just gave some money to the Panama Food Bank. But who's the guy that does it, that works for you?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
Yeah, with
I'm
Ronnie.
sorry, Costa Rica. Ronnie, yeah. We just gave it to Ronnie's ministry.
So cool.
Because Jordan brought it up and put it on the Tithe channel and said, hey, man, I'd love to be able to give some money toward the food pantry. Was it Panama? No, Costa Rica.
Yeah,
sorry.
Costa Rica.
I got the wrong place. But so we did that. So we gave money to Costa Rica and for the food pantry. You know, we gave to the Pennsylvania Central Penn Food Bank. And, you know, we don't just do food banks with food, but that's our call. And so, like, we should be able to be successful in business, then turn around and be able to be a blessing to others and give it back. And that's really that's the best and the most enjoyable part of my job is being able to figure out who we're going to bless this quarter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's amazing.
we blessed the sports teams. We blessed the swim teams. We blessed baseball, football, whatever it is that maybe our employees are involved with. We want to sow back into there as well, because most of the times our employees are volunteering on the side anyway at night at the baseball field or at the swimming pool or at the wherever else that our kids are involved in. So we want to be immersed in the culture. We want to be immersed in the community, and we want to be immersed into being a part of the fabric of our community. And the best way to do that is being involved, volunteering, and sowing into it.
That's really good. I mean, why else are we in business?
Exactly.
Why has God placed you as the leader of a company, if not to help fund the kingdom?
Yeah.
What my firm belief is that we are in business as faith-based entrepreneurs to make as much money as we can so we can be a blessing to our community. We can fund those who are on the mission field.
Absolutely.
Feeding those who are hungry.
Absolutely.
And blessing those who are on the front lines of nonprofits and even church ministries. I mean, we've done the same thing with small church startups, church plants, and been a part of some of those as well. And that brings me so much more joy.
Oh my goodness.
Than paying myself and, which I haven't done as far as like buying beautiful cars and big houses or anything like that.
Right.
I want to make as much money as we can, but I want to give out as much as I can at the same time.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, I don't know that. I'm not sure that's in business 101. Give 10% of your earnings out.
I'm sure there are some people who are like, well, I don't know about that.
10% of your earnings out the door every quarter.
Yeah.
But I would say to that, try it.
Well, let me ask you, do you tithe on your gross earnings or your net earnings?
On gross.
Because I'm sure people are going to ask that.
Well, let me see here. I tithe off of. On gross.
On gross?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because in our world, it's sales. It comes through like the Apple Store, the App Store, and things like that. And so if we made, if we made $200,000 this quarter, or if we made $500,000 that quarter, we're selling for $50K. So we're selling $50,000 in the community, if that's what we made. Like if we made $200,000 this quarter, January, February, March. Okay, so in April, we're going to sow $20,000 into what our employees have asked to sow into, and what we all have either approved or voted on to give back to the community and do that. So, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a little chunk of change. It's significant of things, and we have heard so many amazing testimonies and things of places that we've been able to give to and it making a difference. And so that's the payout. And so the funny story, not funny, the story about this is I was reading the article I have here from on Fox about the owner of Hobby Lobby.
Okay.
And he said the Hobby Lobby CEO inspires with faith over fortune messages about after giving up company, wealth can be a curse. So I was reading this article, and here, I came across verbatim what we were doing in our company already, and it was being confirmed by the head guy of Hobby Lobby. And here's what he says.
Yeah.
For instance, the Bible talks about giving a tithe of 10%. Can you imagine what would happen if every top leader in business became a tither? There would be literally billions available for good work around the world. Wow. So here, this stuff we were already doing.
Yeah.
So then I literally I read that article about the president and CEO of Hobby Lobby giving his money back to the estate and not owning it himself and putting it in a trust fund and things like that. And then he says, well, it'd be like if every business owner in the world would tithe 10% back to their own community. So I get that article and I share it on Slack Friday night. I read the article Friday morning. I share it on Slack Friday night. And everybody's like, yeah, so glad. I said, listen, this is what I was talking about earlier. This is confirmation of what we're doing from somebody that has a 50-year-old company and $8 billion revenue a year. And we're doing, in a smaller scale, obviously, but we're doing the kingdom principles that this article is reaffirming from a good Christian businessman.
Right.
12 hours later, Josh, I'm coaching over here at the baseball field by Pizza Grill. my phone rings and my phone blows up, and they're like, and Jason and Jamie call and say, hey, do you know why this amount of money has just been deposited into PayPal? And I'm like, no, I have no idea. They're like, Apple is just paying us a large amount of money right now, and we don't know why. I said, well, can you read the fine print on the deposits ticker? And it said settlement. And I was like, you are kidding me. I spent 45 seconds 6 months before that filling out a settlement that Apple was getting sued for by Epic Games or whatever.
Okay.
And we happened to be on the App Store during the years that it was, that the lawsuit was there.
Okay.
And so they had everybody fill it out if you want to be a part of that lawsuit. 45 seconds worth of work. 45 seconds. And the next day, 12 hours later, well, I mean, I did it 6 months ago, but I gave them the article, and the next day, 12 hours later, there's a large amount of money in our bank account, and just happened to be there.
No kidding.
You know what I mean? 12 hours after I sent the email or sent the Fox News of what it would be like if we continue to give 10%. I mean, I was like, that is God. That's a direct correlation to.
It's definitely not luck.
It's no. We don't give to get blessed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm just saying it was God's setup. We read the article Friday morning, send it out to the team Friday night, and then all of a sudden Saturday morning we get X amount of money deposited in our account because I did 45 seconds worth of work. Sounds like a God thing to me.
Do you feel like it was the Holy Spirit leading you to fill out that form?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I filled out other ones before they come through, and I got like $23 from IKEA. I mean, who thinks you're going to get anything in these things? You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, you get $7.50 or $23.95 from IKEA. We were thinking maybe a $50 gift card to Apple.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Buy a dresser with that.
Yeah, exactly. But this was significant.
Yeah.
This was like, and it was right after COVID.
Wow.
Like we needed that bump right there. That was like the PPP3. You know what I mean? Like, but it just shows you like the favor of God when you tithe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was no coincidence. It was a total God thing that we were being grateful. We were being obedient. We were being good stewards of what God gave us.
Absolutely.
And we were celebrating in the fact that was happening that Friday night. And I said, guys, read this article. And then Saturday morning, we get a phone call. We don't know. This is all of a sudden coming in on a Saturday morning. Boom, in the PayPal account.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, man, this is God.
And
this is God.
You don't tithe and do all these things for those rewards.
No,
but
not at all.
It's just it's a byproduct of being faithful.
Absolutely. It has to be a byproduct.
Yeah.
It has to be a byproduct. You don't give to get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't ever do that. But
Right.
you know, but try it. I mean, try blessing others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we weren't created for ourselves. We were created for others.
Right.
We have to understand that.
Absolutely.
So I want to help as many people I can possibly help on the planet. And by right now, the realm and sphere is the business side of it.
Man, so much value that you've given us today. And if those who are listening take anything away from this conversation,
Yeah.
it's the steward aspect.
Absolutely.
You know, you are a steward and you are not the owner. You might be an owner on paper, but you're really stewarding what God has put in front of you.
Absolutely.
And that's what I've taken away. I mean, so many good, tangible applications here in this conversation that any listener can go and implement right away. So as we finish this up, what are you working on right now? What's exciting with OnSong New that you can talk about? And number two, how can they get in touch with you and how can they get more info on OnSong?
Yeah, well, it's onsongapp.com. Obviously, if you want to go on the website, it's out there. It's on the App Store as well, OnSong in the App Store. Right now, we are putting a big push in the next 6 weeks for the release of OnSong 2024, which is basically a whole new rendering engine. Okay. There's basically a facelift of the app. We believe it's going to include cloud storage as well, and people will have cloud there as well. There's 2 columns. There's a bunch of features that are in there that people have been waiting for a long time that Jason's been working so hard at just to get to the forefront. But this is a really big, not even just facelift. It's just a big change in a good way, an overhaul for OnSong that will allow certain things that he's bolting on that other things can happen then because of the new renderer, and different things can happen then with growth and with features and with different things. And so some of the stuff just needed to be cleaned up from the past, and he's cleaned things up, and he's added so many really great features to it. And so yeah, we're really excited about that being out. Hopefully at the end of May is when we're targeting, because it's a big lift for us, but it has so many features with it. Yeah,
well, you've had
we're excited.
Killer first quarter of 2024.
Yeah, we've done really well. Had the best quarter we've ever had in the history of OnSong, and so you know, if things incrementally go 10%, 15% every quarter, that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like I was having a conversation with a guy at the bank, and he's like, "Well, you're not doubling your revenue in a year." I'm like, I don't know who does that. You know what I mean? Like, if God blesses you that you double your revenue in a year, that's great. But for me, it's the long game. It's being steady and faithful, and 10, 15, maybe 20%. You know what I mean? If you keep incrementally doing that, then you've laid the foundation and you've laid the groundwork for things to be successful over time.
Absolutely.
And so, if things if things doubled in a year for us, we'd have some infrastructure problems. You know, we'd have some bigger problems that we'd have to deal with, and we're welcoming them. But I'm okay with the 10 and 15 right now that we're continuing to grow at. I said, but what we're doing now with the subscription base and moving forward is we're getting those compound years of people that subscribe now. This is the third or fourth and fifth year of people subscribing that is really helping the long game. Yeah. And so I like the long game better than the quick short, you know,
slow and steady. Yep.
Boom. Yeah. But I don't know if that's good or bad, but
well, you're doing
seems to be working.
You're doing something right. Whatever you're doing is working, and you're an inspiration to so many.
Yeah, thank you.
And hopefully more people will be able to reach out to you guys.
Yeah.
And even from your story, has been so, even to me, it's been so encouraging.
Yeah, good.
To hear just what you've been implementing in your business to implement faith into your everyday actions, and seeing the rewards and how God has been blessing you and open up doors in so many cool ways. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to contact us, just hit us up on Facebook or hit us up on the web. There's probably a little contact us page or a link down there, and they can contact us, and they'll get me the email. And yeah, I love to talk to you, especially business owners. I love to, you know, I've actually been, the one thing from the personal side that I've been doing lately is I've been actually being a coach to worship leaders. So I've been coaching worship leaders in Florida and in Pennsylvania and other places. Once a month, I've been coaching them and just helping them identify, or having somebody to be able to talk to about what it's like to lead worship in a church, what it's like to be working with a senior pastor, what it's like to bridge that gap, and what frustrations you have, what successes you have. But you know, as a worship leader for a very, very long time, I feel like I have a lot of wisdom to help them bring that chasm together, that they can really understand the senior pastor or the senior leadership and really work together and be successful in what they do, and know that they're been placed by God there to lead worship and to do it unto the Lord, but do it within obviously the structure that has been placed over them authority-wise. So it's a fine line. Yeah, it's a fine line with that, but it can be done. Absolutely. And it can be done well, and it can be done with excellence. And so I've been blessed and fortunate to be able to sow into worship leaders that way, and coach them so that they don't go down the pitfalls that, you know, others have done, maybe I've done a long time ago, that are out there with worship leading. And so I have a huge passion to help mentor worship leaders as well, like you do. Yeah,
I mean, raising up that next generation of those who are going to be in full-time ministry is important.
Absolutely.
And also talk about your music. You have some music on Spotify.
Yeah, it's been out there for a while.
He's an amazing piano player.
Well, I had a piano instrumental CD that's out there. It's called The Room. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, and it's been out a while. But I was able to make a contact with a guy by the name of Will McFarland. He used to be the guitar player for Bonnie Raitt for 6 years. Played with Bonnie Raitt, played at Tokyo, Madison Square Garden, all over the world. And we were doing a conference down in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, where he was at, and we heard him playing at the Marriott. We connected. He ended up bringing me down to the studio there at Muscle Shoals, and there was a beautiful baby grand over there on the side. And he says, "Hey, I'm going to have you come down, stay at my house. We're going to make this piano instrumental CD, and you're going to use that piano and the whole 9 yards." And so he worked it out for me. And yeah, it's just when I started to play the piano in the room there, the presence of God came in like I've never experienced before in my life to that degree. I mean, I was crying. Will McFarland was crying. My other buddy Mark was crying and sliding down the wall into the presence of God. Like, it was like intense. And so I know that CD is anointed, and I know that it brings the presence of God wherever it's played. And so there's been a lot of teachers that played in the classroom. There's a lot of kids with autism that play it, and they kind of calm down. They kind of don't go through their patterns as intense as they do when they have autism. And so it's that CD with the presence of God, no lyrics, just putting it on in the background, changing the atmosphere, changing the climates of where you are. It has went farther. This CD has went farther than I could have ever dreamt for it to go, with the testimonies and how many people all over the world have been listening to it, and just they've been experiencing the presence of God because of just having it on. And so
cool.
Even kids in elementary school are getting their homework done faster and quicker because they're not being so rambunctious. And I remember the one teacher came up to me and said one time, she goes, "You don't know how the CD's changed my life." And I was like, "I don't know how the CD's changed your life. Tell me." She goes, the most unruly kid in the classroom was just up and down and rambunctious, and she started to play the CD, the room, obviously in the room, in the classroom. And the kid came over and said, "Teacher, I don't know what you're doing when you play that piano CD every day, but something happens right here when you play it." And like, it just melted the teacher, and the kids started to behave and just change the atmosphere in the room. The presence of God changes atmospheres and climates, and the more that we can have that kind of stuff into our school systems, the better off the world's going to be.
100%.
So,
man, you're a man of many talents.
Just been blessed. God's been good, man.
That's awesome.
He's been good.
Well, thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm so encouraged by your story and about what God is doing in your life and through your business. It's so incredible to see from our standpoint.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us on the Bright Business Podcast. We'll see you next time.